We all have one question before us today, and that question is, what meaning will we attach to these events?
This is very common for witnesses to be people with dicey backgrounds.
We need to know all the facts.
Promise me you won't hurt him, Mitch.
Where is he?
We all experience darkness. Ask yourself something. Do you want to be guided by hate?
We've all made mistakes.
Tony, good morning.
Good.
How are you, sir?
How you doing? Good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for
Great.
joining me today to talk about The Ravine. Excellent drama, great thriller. Man, I didn't expect it to be so heavy. You know, it was like, whoo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's very emotional.
right out of the gate. Yeah. So, well, it's inspired by true events, a brutal crime that rocks a family and a community. Is there a fine line being true to the story and then creating a dramatic movie?
Yeah, there is, especially because it's, not just being true to the real life story, the real life incident, but also being sensitive to it, right? And then you're coming from a novel, so you're coming from a whole different sort of medium, which, as everyone knows, adapting from a book to screen is very different. But you're also dealing with the idea that it's from multiple points of view and so forth. So in order to turn it into a film, in order to turn it into an interesting film, you have to say, okay, I want to turn it into like a thriller, but just come at it from a little different way that's more like the novel. But you definitely have to be sensitive to the issue.
And it was also a benefit for the film that the writers became executive producers. So you were heavily involved with the real writers, right?
They were on set every day. And, when we went, they came with us location scouting, they were there through, from A to B, A to Z. So it was like, when we were looking for locations, sometimes it was very emotional to them. When we were looking for locations and it didn't work, sometimes they're like, yeah, these are the wrong places, So it was great to have them there. And it was, they're such an inspiration to the whole story itself, because it's written sort of about them, that it was nice to have them there for the actors, for the crew, for myself, everything.
The opening scene portrays a suicide, and the dramatic scenes that follow, that affect the community and the family. As a director, I've always was curious about this. How do you work with actors to prepare for such emotional scenes? Because the opening scene, Terry getting the call on the couch. I mean, so what kind of conversations do you have with actors? Do you trust their instincts, or do you have many conversations about those scenes?
Well, first off, the answer is yes, for all those questions, because, first off, you are working with people who you trust and who inspire you because of their talent, because of their dedication and so forth. You're also dealing with the fact that, these are pros who come in and they've already made a choice, right? And that's what I look for, someone who's just really has a choice in how they want to approach it. My job isn't to tell them that, go this way, that way. My job is to actually have a conversation with them, and just to make sure that they're feeling that choice is being, served the best they can. So along those lines, like taking the example of Terry, when she gets the phone call, we did that a bunch of times, and she's in it each and every take and each and every angle. And, the same things when she did the eulogy in the church, that's 8 pages of dialogue and she's in it. And you realize that, again, a lot of it is just sort of sitting down after the fact and asking questions, what felt right, what didn't, and that's where I think you find a lot of the emotional scenes working better than more the technical stuff, which is action or so forth, but I mean, all of them kind of followed their own head in that way, and they made the right choices.
Yeah, outstanding cast, really good choices, and the great Leslie Uggams. I mean, I wasn't expecting to see her, man. She just blew it away. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I love her.
Shooting in New Orleans, did the pandemic delay production of any kind?
We shot in New Orleans right up until the pandemic, right until it closed down. So it affected us. It just barely affected us. We shot the last scene in, which is the opening scenes in, in the Alps when there's, they get the phone call and come back. We actually shot that in Romania, in Transylvania, like 5 hours out of Bucharest, in the middle of nowhere, a beautiful little town called Sibiu. I've shot a lot of films out there, so I knew this perfect place, and we went there to go shoot. And the 2 days that we were there, we were all listening to the radio while we were shooting, hearing, Prague just shut down, Italy's short, all the borders are closing. And we wrapped, and then, went to sleep. The next morning I woke up and my phone was just blowing up with texts from people back in the States saying, get on a plane, get on a plane.
You're gonna be stuck in Europe.
Yeah, exactly. And nobody knew, right? So we drove 5 hours back into town, jumped on a plane, I flew into LAX. It was a ghost town. got home, fell asleep, woke up, and everything was closed. There was 8-hour lines at LAX. It was terrible. So we just missed it.
Wow.
But it did affect us in post because it took a long post because everything was up in the air.
And, I call it what you have your Harold and Maude shot, the SUV, going over the ravine.
Right. Right.
Very climactic, that is like one of the biggest scenes in the movie. You don't see stuff like that anymore. You don't see something like that. So tell me about the preparation for that scene, because you only had one chance at that, right?
Well, it's funny you say that because we actually had 2 cars, but we only did it once. And the reason why is we had to find the perfect location, this big ravine, this natural sort of, crevasse in the middle of nowhere. And it was way up in St. Francisville in Louisiana. And so it was a hike out in New Orleans. And, the time of year we were shooting, it was, the weather was pretty dramatic. And we, sorry, my phone just rang in. And so we set it up, and we actually had our whole effects team and our stunt team. And, we had the car set up where, we're on a special rig. It was like a slingshot rig because we didn't want, it wasn't like, Harold, it wasn't like, I was gonna say Harold one, but it wasn't like Thelma and Louise where they leap off, he's just tumbling over an edge. So it has to look realistic. So it was all this whole setup. You have to pull the engine out of the car because you're falling into the water and you can't have anything leaking. And we're all set to go. All the cameras go up, and then it starts pouring rain on us and lightning. And so by the time we were able to come back out and shoot it, it was completely muddy. So the issue there was that we couldn't use our rig. So by the time we finally got it going, we finally threw the car over, there was enough. We only did it one time, but it looks great.
Yeah, it looks fantastic.
Yeah, we managed to just make it happen.
In your filmography, in your career, your background's action films. Was it a challenge to go in a different direction? Because this is an actor's movie, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Again, the short answer is yes and yes. The issue here is that when you're doing something like this, you're the characters of the plot. In an action film, the characters follow the plot. Right. And so that was fun. That was different. The idea of taking a thriller and kind of wrapping it inside out instead of actually just following your normal plot line was something different for me. But it was a lot of fun. Again, you're in these small places and you have these big emotions and you're trying to work through the big emotions, which is kind of what the action beats are.
I was reading your biography, raised in Hawaii. I've got a ton of relatives in Hawaii for the last 7 years.
Oh, great.
Family's got a place on the Big Island near Kona.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I just love Hawaii to death.
Local boy.
You bet. I'm not local. I'm born and raised in Las Vegas, which is the 9th island, So
I was going to say there's a lot of Hawaiians that go to, a lot of people in Hawaii go to Vegas or Alaska.
We just had our Aloha Festival here last week, So
cool.
It's Asian Pacific Heritage Month, and but I noticed you made Super 8 films. I did too, So I'm Generation X. I was born class of '84, but my friends and we shot Super 8 films and edited on those little devices there. And I also went to UNLV. I was their first film school when they had the 4-year degree. Yeah, and I edited on Moviolas, and I edited on Steambex, on flatbeds.
So you actually cut film. You actually were destructive editing.
Yeah, and put trims up and the whole 9 yards, shooting with Bolexes, with no sound, doing 5-shot sequences.
The 16 Bolex is like my favorite camera still. I use it whenever I can in a film. Yeah,
I go back to UNLV now, it's all digital. They have no idea film, loading up a film in a Bolex and a Barney bag.
Everything, exactly. Everything is non-linear, everything is non-destructive. Yeah. And it's a big difference.
Yeah, and I'm just like, man, you guys have it easy. I have it easy now. Look at this. We're doing this, and I edited on Final Cut, and it's like, but I'm like, you have no idea what we used to go through. It's just, but I thought it was great training, wasn't it?
It's great training, and again, I remember when we moved from the Moviola to actually cutting on an Avid, or so forth, and I remember talking to editors, and they said that because instead of taking a grease pencil and marking your film saying that's gonna that's a dissolve, you can try a dissolve, you can try all these things. And I remember talking to editors, they said, what's the hardest part for you? And they said the hardest part is just I need to slow it down because I have to think about the cut. And I think that's what's happened now is that it happens so fast because it's non-destructive. You're not chopping into trims and then having to recon the whole thing. You can try many things. And I think we're on the other side of it. I think people are doing crazy stuff now, which is really cool. But I think that's what we lost.
I remember my last semester that they brought in the communications film department. They brought in a Razor NT, a computer, the first nonlinear. And I shot a 30-second open for a TV show we were doing at UNLV TV. It took all weekend to render 30 seconds. I mean,
that's the other thing, right? Remember? We used to have banks of hard drives when we finally moved over, and they're spinning up and the whole thing. And now it's like, you put it all on your phone.
It's crazy.
So-
And also, you shot a feature in Las Vegas. How was that experience? I know it was a while ago, but
It was great. You know, we went, it was old Fremont Street before they actually redid it and covered it. It was
Oh,
fantastic.
it was during
Yeah.
that time. So the
Yeah.
experience wasn't there.
It wasn't there yet. It was
'Cause
wide
I
open.
always-
Look, all that's still there.
I always go back to Diamonds Are Forever, you know, the James Bond where they have the car chase and you can see the old Fremont as a two-lane
Yeah.
street and all of that. So
Yeah.
awesome, man. Well, hey, congratulations on a great
Thanks.
drama, and I enjoy talking to you. Let's do it again
You
soon.
too.
You come
You got
to
it.
Vegas.
Thanks.
Yeah, come visit me and I'll visit you.
I
in-
will.
Are
I'll
you in
take
Hawaii
you up on
now? Are you in
No,
Hawaii?
I'm in Los Angeles now.
Okay.
I'm in LA at the moment. Yeah.
You're neighbors. We're next door to each other. So anyway,
All right, great.
congratulations.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Take care.